All right, we're recording on a screenshot. All right, so we're back in Exodus. Exodus chapter 20. All right, everybody ready? And everybody ready over there? Here, let's change this real quick since we're changing our attack that we normally do. Hi, everybody. Yeah, here, this is what's called, I didn't do my homework, I guess. And, oh. All right, let's see here. Let's see how that goes. Does that look good like that for that? Yep. All the stuff we normally do beforehand, we'll just do live on YouTube or on Facebook. All right, yeah, Exodus chapter 20, those where we're at. All right. Everybody's ready? Father, we ask this find people with open eyes and open ears. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, today is Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023, and this is Bible study, and we're working the book of Exodus chapter 20 tonight. Finally get to some law after everything we talked about between law. There's a little bit that I want to review, but we'll do that in just a second. All right. For tonight, let's just pick it up right away, right off with verse 1 of chapter 20. Now remember where we're at now. Everything that's happened up to this point has been pretty busy. Now, told Moses and Aaron, you two get your tail up here, right? We got some stuff to talk about. All right, so these are the events right after that first initial encounter. You remember they set bounds about it and said don't come any farther. Right. If you remember, they've had having problems even when they're told they're being tested. They're having a hard time following instructions like write your name on the paper or what's today's date, things like that. Those kind of simple things, right?
All of this bread, don't save it.
That don't save it, right. Yeah, those kind of things, right. They're messing it up. So he's still working with kind of almost object lessons just with the simple things, right? So he set up bounds. Those are the rules. Don't come any closer unless he says different, all right? Okay, let's take it. And God spake all these words, saying, I am Yahweh thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Verse 3, thou shalt have no other gods before me. All right, now, that's just a straight out commandment. No other gods before him, all right? That's the first and the primary commandment of all. Remember where they're coming from. They're coming from Egypt where they had different gods. They had a god for every corner, basically. Right? And he's setting it up to where they understand that he is the one and only God. All right? Verse 4, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. Now, a lot of people will stop right there, okay, and they say that, okay, see, the Bible says right there that you can't make an image of anything that is in heaven or in the earth. Yeah, that's pretty much what it says. All right. Hold on, there's more. All right. Now, first I want to talk to you about the graven images of these people. The graven images are those images that they've been looking at in Egypt for 400 years. The frogs, the cattle, the Pharaoh, all these things. Now he's saying don't make you anything like you saw in Egypt. You don't want to have nothing to do with anything like that. All right? Now remember when it goes up, everybody knows the story when Moses goes back up. Later on it comes back down, what are they doing? They build a calf, right? All right? So immediately going running right back. What was one of the first things that were destroyed was the cattle with hail, right? So they're running right back to the graven image thing. I just wanted to kind of throw that in there as a pass. So that's what they identify as a graven image anyway. It could be anything, though. But does that mean you can't have a picture of, like, Jesus? I mean, you probably not what it looked like, but, I mean, is that a graven image? See? Okay.
I don't think necessarily because
you're right. Okay, because the next verse, right, that's right, because it's the next verse that changes it from, is it just an image or is it graven? Listen to what it says in verse 5. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children into the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. All right. So here it's clearly there's a qualifier. It could be a graven image if you worship it. If you bow down before it, it can become one. I think about the beast that we studied in the book of Revelation. Remember, it starts out a political system. But at that midpoint, it becomes something that they worship. All right? So you got to kind of remember that. You can't even bear the mark of the beast till halfway through, right? But first it's just a political system. Whatever's arranged with the political system is just a part of politics, right? But to engage in that, when you have to worship the Antichrist, and that's when you bear the mark of the beast, that's when it becomes graven. That's exactly what it says in the book of Revelation, if you remember. So got to keep that in mind also, right? Now, that brings me to the next point in that verse. It says that visiting the iniquity, listen to what it says, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Now, a lot of people grab a hold of that and say, see, God will punish your children for your sin. All right? But they don't want to follow what it says, them that hate me. Now, look, if the dad hates God, let's just face it, God will hate him back. All right? But if the son turns from the sin of the fathers and returns to God, is God going to be mad at this job? No.
No, there's no punishment.
There's no punishment for that. He's done exactly what he wanted him to do. Right. What he should have done. All right? So there, it doesn't go into the third and fourth generation because he's turned away. He loves God now. Of those that hate me is what it said. So, and it'll go farther than the fourth or fifth generation, take it to the 100th generation. If you continue to hate God, believe me, he'll hate you back.
And all the way back to
all right?
the beginning.
Right, that's right. He'll hunt you all the way back to the beginning, right? Now, he doesn't want to be that way, but that's only with those that actually choose to hate him, right?
Evil, yeah.
That's right. And that's all getting sorted out in this generation before it's over. All right, verse 6. And showing mercy. They don't want to read this part either. And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. All right, but that's the pre-qualifier right there, is you have to do the job of keeping the commandments. Not just the 10, there's a lot more you're going to find out. All right, verse 7. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. All right, now, a lot of people want to associate this with cussing. All right, here's where we start learning.
Yeah.
All right. One of the reasons I wanted to have that up there on the screen for us tonight was to run this, because it's a lot of numbers involved. Now, let's take the word vain. I'm just going to talk you through it, all right? In your Strong's and Hebrew Index, it's 7723 sometimes. Okay? Now, vain, I'm going to show you. Let's see here. Let's just see. Let's look at vain. All right, it is used 102 times in the Bible. Okay, and there's 112 matches, so that means several times it's used in more than one time in each verse it's used. Okay, I wanted to just scroll through and start showing you. I started counting words because for every 102 that you've used, you're looking for this word, you're looking for, what did I say it was, 7723. But if you keep throwing through all this 102, you'll find that number changes several times. All right, which means is that it's a different Hebrew word that vain is translated to. So you got at least 5 different words that are translated to the English word vain. Okay, and most of the time it doesn't really make a big difference. Often vain means empty or void. Okay, it also means false, or it also means to testify falsely, or to falsify, things like that. That's another way that the word vain is used, all right? And it just goes on and on. I got bored at 5. I figured that was enough to illustrate my point. All right, and that's what I want to do, because I don't want to turn this into a Hebrew lesson in the English word vain. It just doesn't do any good. All right, but what does help us is understanding exactly what the word vain means in the 10 Commandments. All right, and it's 7723, all right? And it means in the sense of evil, destructive, literally, or morally. It comes from 7722. It means to rush over or tempest. Now, here's where it gets interesting. By implication, devastation, to be desolate, desolation, destroy, destruction. Okay. Here's the big lesson. What's Apollyon mean? The Greek word Apollyon.
Apocalypse, isn't it?
No, it means destroyer.
Yeah, the
Yes.
first of
And
the
Abaddon
first
is the
of
Hebrew
yeah.
word. The same thing, it means destroying angel.
destroying angel, yeah.
Destroyer is the key part to the root. Okay. So, taking the Lord's name in vain. Let's just use the future book. Now, when the Antichrist does appear, people look at him, he is the destroyer. Yet, they confess him to be God. So, what they're truly doing is taking the Lord's name in vain in the very war. They're saying that the destroyer is God. And that's exactly what it's mean by the root. All right? That in doing this, and when you call Lucifer Jesus, well, you're taking the Lord's name in vain. That's right. Do not do that. Do not do these things. What it really comes down to is don't look at God and put the horns and the pitchfork and the tail on him when it's really the enemy. Think about Job. How many people read the book of Job and say, I can't get with Christianity because look what God did to Job.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it wasn't Job.
It was the devil, yeah.
Right. It was the enemy that did it. All right. They're doing exactly that. They're taking the Lord's name in vain when they're putting the pitchfork and the tail on God instead of on the enemy that's doing it.
Pitchfork and horns at all.
All right. So to take the Lord's name in vain has a great deal to do with more than language, is what I'm getting at. All right.
Pretty much it's the best way to would be a spiritual death.
Well, kind of, right. I can see what you would say, right. Just don't do it. Right. Yeah, basically, but it's just blaming God when the devil's the one that's doing it, really. It's really what it kind of comes down to. It goes back to the first statement, I'm the Lord, you have no other gods before me. All right, all of them actually kind of go back to that. But at least the first 5, I believe. But I wanted to cover that pretty good so you understand then that vain, I mean, if your language messes your mama up or your grandmama up, then what are you supposed to do? Have respect for your mother and your grandmother and watch your damn mouth. All right? But just because you offend your mama and your grandmama, that don't necessarily mean you offend God, especially if you have respect for your mother and your grandmother. All right? Well, that's what I want. I'm just tired of people looking at people and accusing someone of sin when they don't understand what it even means. All right? That's right. They're just being judgmental on somebody else because you don't know what's in their head. You have no idea. All right? I think that's probably enough said about that. I don't know how far we're going to get through all these, right? Now, that moves on. What's the next one? Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Okay? Sounds simple enough, right? All right? But the 7th day, okay. 6 days shalt thou labor. Let's just go read all this and then we'll talk about it, all right? 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But on the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God, and in it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy sons, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor the stranger that is within thy gates. All right? For 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all of them in it, in this age we were talking about, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. All right, so let's go back up here. Let's work this just a little bit, all right, because it's a little bit more to it, too, even. Okay, let's take the Sabbath day first. All right. 99.5% of all Christians will tell you it is Sunday. Okay? And it's Sunday, but they forgot how to count. That's right. All right. What did it say in chapter 12 of the book of Exodus here? That was our first law we ever covered. It said, Abib shall be the first month for you of the year. All right, and it begins on the spring equinox. Then we use that number 7 to start counting, right? You have 7 days, and then 7 more days is 14 after the spring equinox. When the sun goes down on the 14th day, the high Sabbath begins. All right. Now that's going to float on our calendar. I'm getting ready to show you that it floats. All right. This year, the actual Sabbath is actually on a Monday. It's not on a Sunday. And we're getting ready to calculate one for here in just a minute. I'm going to show you how to calculate it. All right. So he said, remember the Sabbath. Now, why do you think it says that woe to those that make the Sabbath the day of the week? All right? Because they're on the wrong day of the week when you start talking about the Sabbath, if you're going to make a big deal about it. Now, I'm very much Christian, all right? And Sabbath means one thing, it means rest. All right, now, if you really want to know where your rest is, you just need to go to Hebrews chapter 4 and read that chapter. It's all about where your rest is. It's all those things that Christ became. And he became the Sabbath, and therefore is your rest, and you have a daily Sabbath with Christ. So therefore, as a Christian, your Sabbath is daily. It's not a day of the week anyway. Okay? So there's a lot to the Sabbath. Now, it says to remember that. Okay, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Remember, what happened on the Sabbath day? All right? You had the crucifixion that occurred on the 14th day after the spring equinox. All right? He's pronounced dead. They come, they collect his body, they prepare him, and as the sun goes down, on the 14th day, Jesus is placed into the tomb. All right? And then 3.5 days later, he resurrects halfway through Passover. All right? So that's all having to do, and he became all that. The Passover, the Sabbath, all right? All these things, all the sacrifices, all the temple service, all those things he became. All right, that day. Now, you can narrow that down. All right, let's look at this. Let's just look at what this is. What verse were we on? We were on 12 is where we are. All right, I want to show you this. Let's see. I'm going to my calendar here real quick. All right. Let's find where we are. There we go. All right. We're right here on 23rd, right? Now, we're going to go forward, not backwards. All right, go up the first day of spring. First day, I need my glasses. Well, see, I got these magic things, I don't use them. All right, first day of spring when I looked it up is on the 20th, all right? There's your first day of spring. All right, you count 2 sets of 7, 14 days, so the 27th. So the 3rd is the 14th day. When the sun goes down, since the new day begins at sundown, all right, on the 14th day when the sun goes down, that was the exact day that Jesus was placed in the tomb. Every year, every day. All right, that makes Tuesday the Sabbath that's coming up for this next year, for this next religious year. All right, if you're actually counting the Sabbath, because that's your 14th day, that's your 5th, that's the 4th day, that's a Tuesday. So then, every 7 days after that, you have a Sabbath till the next spring equinox. All right, so you see how the cycle continues? All right, we're here at the mountain, right? Said last week, when you hear 3 days, we're at day 47. All right, well, Passover is the first feast. 3 days later is the 50th day, which is Pentecost, which occurs this year, May 22nd. All right. May 22nd is the day, the exact day, every year in the solar cycle, that exact day that the events of Pentecost took place, where the apostles spoke in the Pentecostal tongue. And everybody that represented in the entire world understood exactly what they said in their own language. All right. Now that's the Pentecostal tongue. It's not flopping on the floor. All right. It's not doing crazy things. That's a miracle. Now, all these things occurred. So here we are at Mount Sinai on the day of Pentecost, before Pentecost, and man gets God's law. All right, so the day of Pentecost is some big things that happened. You know one of the events that happened on another Pentecost? Mount St. Helens erupted. Yeah. Don't even know what Mount St. Helens is, do you? Your pastor showed a picture of it when he was talking about ash falls. It was when I was up there at church. That was at a volcanic eruption that happened on Pentecost Day. I remember when it happened. All right. Now, nonetheless, that's nothing about that. So you see, when it starts talking about the Sabbath, it isn't just a day of the week. You're talking about some things. All right. There's history. There's events. There's Christian things. It's beyond me while that is not a holiday, when it's a simple thing to calculate it to the exact day. The earth is in the exact spot in the cycle every year at that day. Now that's some accuracy on counting, all right? And the reason why it gets messed up is because we went from a solar calendar, into lunar calendars, and then you had the Julian calendar, which was first, and then I think it was revised once, and then you move into the Gregorian calendar, which we use, and it makes all the adjustments with 28 days in February and a leap year every 4 years, right, to account for all these things that were accounted for just based off of the spring equinox and counting days. Right. No, nothing complicated, nothing simple, right. All right, now, we're just get back to where we were then, all right? We're in verse 12, all right? Honor thy father and thy mother, that their days may be long upon the land which the Lord God giveth thee. Okay? Now, this is the first commandment that's given with promise. All right? What did it just say? It says...
Okay, I've got a question about that, because we just talked about generations of hate.
Yeah.
What happens if you turn away? That commandment no longer, does that still...
the honor, okay.
Because
that's a good question.
Mother
All
and father are, atrocities, essentially,
Okay.
against God.
I get that's a really good question, actually. Okay, yes. Okay, let's just say I know parents that are crap. All right? They were a piece of crap when they got pregnant. They're a piece of crap after the child's born. They're just a piece of crap. All right? So sometimes that's just all you can honor them for. They gave birth to you.
Okay.
All right?
That makes sense. Yeah,
because without there and whatever
Perfect,
person
yeah.
lived a
That
deposit
clears
in
up,
them, that you wouldn't have them.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
And there's some of our friends that I'm thinking about specifically. I would hate to think of a world without them being in it.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So sometimes that's just all you can. God is not an idiot. He knows. If you come from a line that's screwed up and you're doing better, well, God bless you. He understands. You understand. Honor them for what they can, and what they don't deserve, they don't get. That's just the way it is. All right? That's like repentance. Now, if somebody sins against you and they don't come and ask you for forgiveness, you don't really owe them any. You might want it anyway, so it don't eat you alive from the inside, and that is one of the points of the gospel about forgiveness. And so you don't carry around that. I mean, they may never get it, but if you forgive them, you can move on and get on with your life. But still, the reality of it, somebody steals $500 from you. All right? And they go, well, Jesus forgive me. Did you steal $500? Did they steal $500 from Jesus? No, they stole it from you.
Yeah.
That's right. Whether they're forgiven depends on what you say. You could say, no, I want what the law requires. It's double the offense.
Double, yeah.
That's what that. And if you're a priest or one of the leaders of Israel, it keeps going up. And that was up to the priest's discretion exactly. How? All right. So there was a lot to it. All right. All right, good. We're going, because there's another one I really want to hit pretty good, all right? But nonetheless, honor your mother and father. Sometimes that's just all you can do is honor him because he was a sperm donor and she supplied an egg.
You were born through the
and
flesh.
You passed through this age because of their inconvenience or their convenience or
clears it
whatever.
up right there, yeah.
Right.
Perfectly reasonable.
Right. That's just what you do. Okay. Now, this is my personal favorite one to teach, all right? Thou shalt not kill. This gets so screwed up around pulpits all around. I've seen it all my life. All right? Thou shalt not kill. It says it right there. It says it a few times. Those exact words. Thou shalt not kill. You didn't hear that? You don't kill anybody for no reason. You either. I know you kill people for fun. I'm just kidding. He doesn't. It's not violent. All right? What does that really mean? Because the law requires you to defend your nation, even biblical law.
And your family.
Yeah, your family. All right, you have a dude called the Avenger of Blood in the law over about. His job was to do some killing.
Do some killing, yeah.
So where's the breakdown? Because I see, I'm glad I got a little bit of time. All right, in my life, I've seen 13-year-old girls kidnapped, taken a matter of a few hundred feet, less than a quarter of a mile away from their home, where some sick freak has spent the better part of a year hiding the fact that he's made a dungeon under his tool shed in his backyard. Then he kidnaps a little girl and her little doll, and then spends 6 months raping her. And then at the end of that, he gets a little too excited and just kills her by accident. Now, you're going to have a big segment of Christianity that's going to stand up and say exactly what that says. Thou shalt not kill. Huh? So what's the difference? Let's just figure it out. All right. We get into killing here, but I like Deuteronomy the way it says it in Deuteronomy. So go to Deuteronomy chapter 19, and it just so happens we're going to get some education about law. All right. Now, and that scene is something I've seen repeated over and over. All right. And then this freak goes off to some country club where he's protected. All right. And eventually gets out 20 years later and does it again. Should have hung him the first time. Saved the rope for the next one. In Jesus' name, of course. People say that's blasphemy, but I don't think so, because I know what he said about it. We'll go there too if you want to. All right, matter of fact, we're going to here in a minute. All right. Listen to what it says in chapter 19, verse 1. When the Lord thy God hath cut off the nation whose land the Lord thy God giveth thee, and thou succeedest them, and dwellest in their cities, and in their houses, but they didn't build them. They inherited them. God gave it to them. All right? Thou shalt separate 3 cities for thee in the midst of thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess. All right. These 3 cities are Levitical cities. All right. Remember who the Levites were? The farmhouse? You mean the townhouse?
No, there was a farmhouse.
I don't know where that would. I have no idea. All right. Okay, 3 cities. That's where we were. All right. So he's saying you're going to have 3 cities, and you're going to call these cities cities of refuge. Is he still hanging out? Yeah. Oh, excuse me. All right. That giveth thee to possess it. Thou shalt prepare thee a way and divide the coast of thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee to inherit, into 3 parts, and every slayer may flee thither. Is he still being good out there?
I think he tried getting my car. And the car alarm.
Oh, he's getting in he's driving that van. I hope he don't crash my car. Blah! Hear a crunch. I'm going after him. Come on, I'll be back tomorrow. All right. Thou shalt, verse 3, Deuteronomy. Thou shalt prepare a way and divide the coast of thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, and to inherit into 3 parts, and every slayer may flee thither. Slayer may flee thither. Well, that's harder to say than what you think. All right. Okay, what does that mean? Exactly what it says. When you go into the promised land, you're going to divide your coast evenly so that you have a city of refuge evenly spaced through all of your land, all right? And anybody who becomes a manslayer for whatever reason, all right, just somebody ended up dead. You were drunk driving, whatever. You were just walking along and a rock fell out of the sky and hit your neighbor. You still going to be held? Did you have anything to do with that? That's a hard story to believe to anybody. See, needs to be questions need to be asked, all right? So that's why he sets up these 3 cities. Now he's going to set up 3 more because there's going to be 3 on one side of the Jordan, and there's going to be 3 more added on. There's for 6 total on the other side of the Jordan before it's all over with. But for now, he just flames out 3. All right, and if you kill somebody, you got to flee there. All right, because if you don't, you got a dude called the Redeemer, the Kinsman Redeemer. All right, the Avenger of Blood. He has the right to take your life if you take a life. All right, it's his daddy. My boy's dead. I know you were drunk, but my boy's dead. All right, he's just next to. He's the Avenger.
So same thing with the father, the son.
Right, that's what I mean. Right. Yeah, it goes back. It goes back up. The oldest son then will be the avenger, or his brother.
Or his brother, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now, but nonetheless, verse 4. And this is the case of the slayer, which shall flee thither that he may live. Whosoever killeth his neighbor ignorantly, whom he hated not in times past. All right. As when a man, because that gets kind of vague. So they're going to give an example, all right? As when a man goeth into the woods with his neighbor to hew wood, and his hand fetcheth a stroke with an axe to cut the tree down, and the head slippeth off the heave and lighteth upon his neighbor that he die, he shall flee unto one of the cities of refuge and live. Huh? Why? Because, like I said, the next of kin, they're coming. They're going to want some retribution. They're going to want some answers. It was just you two in the woods.
An accident.
Yeah. How do we know this was an accident? What evidence do you offer? Well, he's got his head. Here's the hew. You can tell it slipped off. I mean, and the judge will look at it. Well, were they arguing? Did they argue? As they may know, these two have been fighting. No, they were friends.
Yeah.
Right? They've been cutting wood together 15 years. Right, so those things will be asked. And it's because, well, my point is this law is not just a tribunal of reckless bloodshedding, all right? There's a set of steps. There's a set of laws. It's legislature, just like was set up in chapter 18 when we were talking about Moses' father-in-law, all right? We have a legal system being established out of it, all right? Verse 6, lest the avenger of blood pursue the slayer while his heart is hot and overtake him, because the way is long and slay him, whereas he was not worthy of death. All right? Maybe it was an accident. He didn't deserve to die. All right? Inasmuch as he hated him not in times past, wherefore I command thee, saying, thou shalt separate 3 cities for thee. And if the Lord thy God enlarge thy coast, as he has sworn unto thy fathers, and give thee all land which he promised to give unto their fathers, and it just keeps going on and on. They get 3 more cities. Is where he goes with it. All right. But there you have exactly what that was. What goes on with the cases just like that. All right. Well, let's see. Where's it go? Let me see. That ignorant. Okay. Let's go back over and finish up in Exodus. In Exodus, back where we were. Does anybody know where I left off? 20, it was 20 something, kill there. Had we gotten through? Oh, kill, that was where we were, all right? Now it's going to follow up on kill here a little bit more. But here you have the whole system for a manslayer then, all right? Somebody gets hurt, you flee to the city of refuge, all right? And there you have your case heard by one of the judges, which will be the Levites before it's all over with.
If there's a need.
If there's
Now,
a need, yes. There might not have been a
Yeah,
need,
right.
right?
That kid may know, the father may know that they were best.
It could be,
You know
but,
what I mean?
right. Yes, yeah, it could be, right. And a lot of the punishment may depend upon even how they feel about it. All right?
Yeah.
Thou shalt not commit, verse 14, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Now notice we switched from offenses against God. Now it's offense against your brother, right. So we switched with kill on, right? Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is of thy neighbor's. Oh, yeah, envious, lustful, right? Yeah, envious. It's just like the point being is don't look at somebody else who has received a blessing and think, oh, I wish that was mine. Because it's actually their blessing. And if you want a blessing, go on.
And it can make you a better person.
Yes, and it can, right. Because you're always looking at what somebody else has instead of what you have, and what you don't have instead of what you do have.
You do have, yeah.
All right. God's not going to bless somebody with money if they have any kind of responsibility with money. You know what I'm saying? So it even falls into things like that. But let's see, where are we? All right. I want to get on back through murder, though, because I want to get back to murder while it's hot. Anyway, a manservant, maidservant, there we go. 18, and all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking, and when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. Every time I read that, it reminds me of the ones from Elijah. Remember the 50 prophets?
Yeah.
The sons of the prophets, they went off way up on a mountain afar where they could see the whole valley on both sides of the river. We're going way over here. Right. And every time I see it, I can see them now. They went at first, and then God spoke, and they decided it wasn't such a cool thing, and they don't want to hear that no more. All right. This is what they said. And they said unto Moses, speak thou with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die. All right. So they thought he was going to kill them just by talking to them. So can you imagine what that's like? I mean, just think about this. How many times did, like, Daniel and John, when they just encounter an angel, fall down and start to worship it? All right? Imagine, just imagine that now. Imagine how they have to feel with God being present there at the mountain, seeing him come, and when he speaks to them, it scares them so bad that they run away and get as far away as they can. I mean, huh?
Moses and his brother.
Well, and that's the people, all the people, yeah. They said when he spoke, they came, when they got to Moses, he told Moses, you tell us what he says, because we don't want to hear him speak anymore because he scares us to death.
Over here.
Yeah, all right, you just tell us what we want, we're going to do it. All right? And Moses said unto the people, fear not, for God has come to prove you. Now remember this word prove means to test. Okay? And people that don't think God won't test you, well, you don't know what you're talking about. He won't test you more than you can bear, but he will test you. All right? And he'll always show you a way out if you need it, all right? And that his fear may be for your face, and ye sin not. And the people stood afar off, and Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where God was. Okay? Now, I said that we were going to go on, but I'll be quite a bit farther before we get back to murder, so we'll just let it go, and then we're going to stop right there at altars. All right. That'd be enough for one night after everything we got going. Okay, so that gets you all the way through the Ten Commandments. All right, now, the Ten Commandments shouldn't be thought of as the total volume of law. All right, because they're the 10. Look at it more like thou shalt not kill as a title. And then the rest of the law tells you, like we were talking about, all right, I got a manslayer, is you a murderer, it was an accident.
Premeditated.
Yeah, right. And so next week we'll catch up on what premeditated, what murder is, what murder actually is. And you'll soon realize that, that makes a lot more sense than you just can't kill. All right? Because there are times when you're expected to, and that's just the way it is. And if your family's in danger, if your country's in danger, your way of life is threatened, well, those are very valid reasons to kill.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between that and then what murder. We'll just talk about it I'll just talk you through it. We'll cover it next week when we cover it more. All right. Now, murder it's specific. It means biblically it says you have to lie in wait. All right. And the way we break the law down, we say premeditate, which is the same thing. All right. There's a difference between killing and premeditated murder, which is exactly what the word that we looked up means. It means to murder, not to kill. Thou shalt do no murder. Murder is what Cain did. Murder is what Lamech did. Lamech got his son to find him a new sword made out of steel, or made out of iron. And the first person he goes out, he tests it out on a man and a little boy. All right? That's murder. But people defending their country. Now, I say this because I personally had these kind of things happen to me. I came back from, when I was in the Marine Corps, I came back from the first round of the Kuwait War, and I had a guy I grew up with look at me and ask me, what is it like to murder somebody?
I don't know.
That's what I didn't know pretty much coming here from singing about the Bible back in then, but I was like, I don't know. I've never murdered anybody. I don't know what it's like to murder somebody. I couldn't tell you. I don't have murder in me.
Yeah.
But you threaten me, I'll kill you tomorrow. But right, that's right. But you come get me, you come looking for me, or you come threaten my children or my family in any way, or my work, or anybody, people I know, right? You can bet your sweet butt if I can intervene, I will. That's just the way life is. All right, now, with all that being said, I hope you guys learned something. I hope you understand a little bit more about what the Sabbath actually is, all right? Remember what it said, Hebrews chapter 4, that gets you, that Sabbath means rest. That's all about where your rest should be. All right, so that helps you then in your Christian walk a little bit better. All right, you guys online, have a good night, and we'll see you guys next time.